I love them, but it's not the same kind of love. But because I'm a Christian, I tolerate it. Now, he worships the ground I walk on. He's trying to make up for it. But I still don't love him like I used to because of basically the man situation. I just am the kind of person that just can't hate someone. I guess that sounds corny. But in the Bible, you're supposed to forgive. Doesn't have to be you got to ride the bed with them. It don't say that in the Bible, and I'll be danged if I will. And that's all I got to say. And if I was single, I probably could look for a new person. But I don't think I'd ever marry again. I'd be afraid to. That's all. And it ain't no fun. And that kind of way to live is kind of, I guess it is sort of lonely and painful. So I just ask the Lord to, give me the courage, keep me good. I'm not out here whoring around. I'm not that kind of person. Never would be. But I could still love someone as a friend. And I can, and I would, and I will. But that don't mean I'm a sinner. That's all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jane. Yeah, so, you look at situations like that where, she's going through so much with someone, but for her own reasons, the investment that she had in her relationship, she wasn't willing to let it go. She fought through all that abuse, cheating, everything, to maintain that relationship. And that's a hard thing to do. It's very hard to be that selfless and be willing to give up that much of yourself for somebody else, whether it's your son or for your husband. By going through that process, I'm sure a lot of times she did feel like she's by herself, even now. We've had conversations before, and I'm sure that, even though you may have somebody at home, especially if they have a mental illness, a lot of times they're not there in the same way that they used to be. So it's easy to feel like you're by yourself, despite the fact that you are married to someone. And not looking, specifically at her situation, but I know for many people who are toughing out the relationship, they sometimes feel like they're failures also. I've talked to people who may have been in a long-term relationship. I've talked to a lot of people who have been in long-term relationships, and they feel like, when it comes to an end, despite how hard they fought to make it last, they are still failures, that they failed in some way. Not taking into account that it wasn't all their fault or just it wasn't meant to work. But because they put so much into it, because they invested so much of themselves into the relationship, they feel like they failed in some way. And talking about changing your point of view, it's best for you to be able to step away from a relationship feeling like, okay, you did the best that you could, it didn't work out, it's not all on you. You can't take all that weight yourself. Than to actually continue to feel guilty and allow that baggage to build up, which will help to keep you from establishing a healthy relationship with someone else later on.
You had made the comment that what if you were married and you had children? And I actually was married to my daughter's father, and I saw early on in the relationship that it was not going to be healthy for me. And even though we had a child together and a young child, I opted to leave or, tell him to go because I knew that I wanted to raise a healthy, happy child. And I think a lot of times people stay, but really, what good is it for you to stay in a relationship, married, dating, whatever you decide to do? What good is it for you to stay in a relationship when you are examples for your children? Your children are watching you. So a lot of times people they do it their own selfish. Well, I'm staying because nobody else will have her or nobody else will have him, whatever the case may be. And your children are watching you, but it's not healthy, the situation that you're in. So I just think that people just need to be happy who they are and not allow someone else to like penetrate their emotions and make them feel, you know, guilty or make them feel bad because this is not working for them.
I'm glad you made that point too, because I know when my oldest brother went through his divorce, I know for a long time he was only sticking around for his kids to be old enough to understand why daddy had to leave. So he stuck with his wife for actually 2 or 3 years just to see that through. And like you said, you're trying to provide an example for your children. And if you are in an unhealthy relationship, your kids will pick up on that. And that may also affect the way that they interact with people within relationships also, because now they believe that this is the way it's supposed to be. Mommy and daddy fight all the time, so I guess this is how a relationship is supposed to be. So when I get in my relationships, if we're not fighting, then we must not be in love. You know, so you also have to take a look at what effect it has on people when you decide to stay within a healthy relationship. You know, but if you are feeling alone, you know, that is, you know, an opening of understanding, being able to understand that you may need to step away and move on to something else.
Well, I don't fight and argue, and I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I feel like I have a different type of love, but it's more of a tolerance. And basically, I'm just teaching my son, even if it seems stupid to stay in the marriage, and it's painful for me, I feel like I'm still teaching my son that according to the Bible, you forgive, but as far as sex is concerned, there is none. And I'm not interested in having sex with him because of the man he was with. I mean, that just blew my mind totally. And like I said, I even gave permission to go out with the guy again. He says, no, I won't. So any little thing that I need, he'll go out of his way to do every little teeny thing to show me he loves me. But I guess if it makes him feel good, that's fine. But I know when I die someday, I'm going to heaven. I sure don't think I'm going to hell. So that's my reward. I know that sounds corny, but that's how I feel. And I try to love everybody I come in contact with as friends. And maybe sometime I'll say things I shouldn't say, flirty, but they know I'm just kidding. But I love people, basically. I always have, and I've always never had any hang-ups about anybody. And sometimes I preach to people, sometimes I feed people, you know. And since I survived a seizure 3 weeks ago, I'm blessed to be here. So I'm going to do everything in my power to love people and show them love and talk about the Lord. So that's my, I guess, hanging in there program.
All right, everybody, we're going to move on to the next segment now, so enjoy.